Hello, welcome to Diary of a 21st Century Mystic. If I'm not wrong, this is the third video in the series. And in this series I'm trying to show you how to live a life in alignment with spiritual intelligence. And I'm using my own life as an example. Now in this particular version or episode of this series, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a little bit about where I've been living for the last 2 months. Just to show you what a humble kind of start I've had on my return to Australia after having spent 8 years in Hong Kong. And then I'm going to show you, explain to you how to narrow down a range of decisions from a very big base where you have a beginning or a blank slate down to a smaller range of choices and the kind of processes that you can use. And I'll do that just by explaining what's happened to me over the last few months. But first of all, let me just quickly show you around the place where I've been living. I've been living with my brother in Morwell, which is in Victoria, near Melbourne, about 2 hours from Melbourne. And, well, I'm a bit reluctant to show you this, but I guess if I'm going to be completely honest about what I've been doing, excuse me, then I'm going to have to show you this. Okay, so here we go. So, this is just the living room of my brother's house. He won't mind me doing this. I've unfriended him from my Facebook account just quietly, so he doesn't know I'm doing this. And we're just moving around here. And I'm just going to show you the room that I've been living in for the last 2 months. It's a tiger, a little poster of a tiger. My brother got that when he came to visit me in China a few months ago. So here's the room I've been living in. Yes, well, this is the reason why I've been a bit reluctant to show you this. It's extremely simple. We've got, I'll just turn the light on here for you. And that's what I call humble. All this junk and rubbish at the back here of the room is mostly my stuff packed into boxes. These clothes here are mine. There's no cupboard space. The cupboard over here belongs to my brother, and he's a West Tigers supporter if you follow rugby league. All this stuff's in there. So it's a bit of a mess. A lot of a mess, actually. And here's a humble cricket bag, because I've been playing cricket for the Latrobe Cricket Club. And there's a, well, we shouldn't probably show you that, a whole heap of rubbish over there. So let's go out here. Not a great space to live, by the way. I didn't realise I'd be living in a space like that when I came back from Hong Kong, but that's the truth. Now if we just walk through here and go outside, you can see a little bit of Morwell. A bit noisy because someone's mowing the lawn around here, but as you can see, Morwell's quite a nice open space. This is about 1 kilometre from the town centre. There's my car. Across the road here is the Morwell Cricket Club. You can't see the clubhouse because it's behind this obstruction there. But the most famous thing about the Morwell Cricket Club is that Peter Siddle, who's currently an Australian player, used to live there. So let's go back inside just before this chap walks along nearby and wonders what we're doing. Little kitchen. Okay, and back to where we started. Okay, can you see me? So I'm going to quickly explain to you what happened to me when I went to Perth recently. I went to Perth for a conference, and oops, let me just quickly pan out here. That's a bit better. You don't want to be too close up there. And I gave a presentation on the futures of cities. In particular, I focused on integrated intelligence or spiritual intelligence and how it can be useful in the creation of future cities. I had quite a small audience. There was only about 50 people at the conference, and in my particular presentation, because there was more than one going on, I had about 20 people there. So a small audience, but they were very receptive to what I did, and I think it went very well. And I made some good contacts there. For example, there was one academic from Melbourne who has invited me to speak to him about working on his program, his future studies program next year. So that's one exciting development. And I met lots of other really interesting people from Melbourne as well. And before I went to the conference, I was thinking, I had a choice between moving to Perth. I was thinking of moving to Perth or staying in Melbourne. I've now decided to stay in Melbourne. The energy of Perth, I found, was not quite right for me. I found it to be a wonderful city. It's very open, it's beautiful, it's clean, it's modern, it's exciting in the sense that it's a boom town. But when I really felt the energy of it, it's like people are more focused on the financial futures. It doesn't really have the depth in terms of the spiritual element that I'm looking for. Now when I look at Melbourne as an energy, as an intuitive, and this is how I'm making the decision, what I feel is that there's a greater depth. It's got an older energy there, an almost the European kind of energy. And there's more, just feels like there's more of an opportunity for someone like me to connect with people there and connect with the energy. There's more of a mystical feel about the place. It's not the only energy that's there, but there's an aspect of it that resonates with me. And the other thing, just at a purely practical level, is that I met people at the conference who, a lot of them live in Melbourne. So it looks like a great place to go for me to connect with people. So that's how I've moved away from this bigger choice where I could have gone to many places in Australia, particularly Perth or Melbourne, down to now where I'm narrowing it down to Melbourne. And the choices that I have to make in the future surround how I'm going to use my own particular abilities as an intuitive and a futurist to contribute to Melbourne society and Australian society and help other people, because that's really what an intuitive should do. I'm going to talk a bit about that a little bit more in the future versions of this video series. So that's where I'm at now. So for the moment, we should perhaps just quickly finish by suggesting this one thing. It's one principle that I want to share with you about these kinds of beginnings. Now when you come into an empty slate space in your life where something has finished or died and you're moving into a new space, you have a lot of choices and a lot of possibilities. So really, there are three principles or main concepts you should consider: waiting, scanning, and listening. Now waiting is very important because you need to have patience when things are unfolding. Okay, patience is very important. If you're going to fear and doubt too much, then you lose the connection with spirit and your intuition, because fear has an energy of itself, so it will distort your decision-making process. So you need to be able to relax. And that's why the presence techniques that I've mentioned on my blog and in my book, Discover Your Soul Template, are really important. Get your energy grounded. Scanning means just looking around at what's going on and paying attention. That's where the listening comes in. Paying attention to spirit. So the listening part is the inner part. So you're listening to your guidance, dreams, visions, feelings, or in my case, songs as well that come into my head because they form a big part of my spiritual guidance. That's the listening. And the scanning is looking around and seeing what's happening with what's going on. For example, I got a song that came through in my mind about a month ago, and the song was Go West, that old song by Pet Shop Boys, which I've had once or twice before. Now, looking at that literally, west of Morwell is Melbourne, but it's also Perth if you go 2,000 kilometres further. So, I knew that somehow my energy was supposed to move west. And I also had a vision about 2 months ago where I saw myself on a bus and getting off in Melbourne. So those two things have been influential in my choice to move to Melbourne. As I mentioned, I eliminated Perth as a possibility because of going there and feeling the energy. So I allowed the song to guide me, but then my life experience in scanning around and feeling the energy of Perth and Melbourne allowed me to make the more concrete choice. So in my next video, I'm going to talk a little bit about making choices that are even more specific, because I've got a big choice to make. I've been looking at a particular program, which I'm not going to mention right now, but it's quite expensive. It's for people who have good ideas but want to turn it into business ideas, get out into the real world of markets and people. And if you want to be a mystic in the 21st century, you've got to move out into the world of people. Not necessarily as a freelancer or in the corporate sector. It could be anywhere, but you still have to move out into the world. Now for me, one of the possible avenues is to move out into the real world, developing a business for myself. So I'm going to talk about that and whether I'm going to invest $3,300 in a course or not. So, I hope to see you then for the next version of Diary of a 21st Century Mystic.